Greetings! In this video we'll be going into the Stop Killing Games Initiative and why game preservation matters. The Stop Killing Games Initiative is an EU petition to try and get the conversation going in the government to prevent publishers from killing games by requiring an online connection for single player or just flat out shutting down servers. What it doesn't mean though is that developers need to provide official support forever. They can provide players with the server binaries and also make sure that single player games can run without an online connection. People say the stability of the game or online safety is a concern, but at least with stability you can just put like a note or something on the game that says it's no longer officially supported by the company. But with online safety, online communities tend to be better at protecting the game against hackers or other people who ruin the experience for the community. Also, the modding community tends to be really good at creating patches, mods, and everything that greatly improve performance as well as greatly improving the graphics quality of games. The only thing is, the Stop Killing Games initiative won't be retroactive, meaning it won't affect games in the past, only games being made going forward. The reason why this matters is because companies are making it harder to preserve games. If we don't preserve the games we have now, future generation of gamers won't be able to enjoy the games that came out today. Eventually, the games that came out today will be considered retro games. A lot of the old games that were made on discs with physical hardware have already been lost. About 87% of the old games have been lost. There are some efforts to preserve games with places like GOG with their preservation program and My Abandonware. They're trying to keep abandoned games alive. So it's a couple days later. At this time, the amount of votes for Stop Killing Games Initiative is at 87% overdriven. In this section, I wanted to talk more about the community, and that for the longest time honestly seemed like, I think partly from getting caught up in a lot of the dumb drama of games, that a lot of people didn't care about game preservation and just older games in general. Seeing so many people talk about the issue of not only the publishers killing games, but also just like even finding channels like Retro Rebound, honestly just made me so happy. Like growing up with games like Halo Combat Evolved, Bioshock, and other games, I want people to be able to experience these games. I feel like this is kind of stuff that's worth talking about. Like, yes, we should talk about issues in the industry, overpriced games, issues with microtransactions, and other greedy business practices. I feel like sometimes we get lost in what's going on with the industry. They forget that the entire point of video games is entertainment, and there's such a unique form of art. Like, it can do things movies can't. I feel like that's part of the main issue of some of these companies too, is they don't take full advantage of that, and sometimes even try and make them like movies, like they're not movies. Like, you're not taking full advantage of it by trying to turn a game into a movie. But also, there's so many indie games that are worth playing and worth talking about. There's games like the horror game Darkwood, fishing games with Lovecraftian horror elements like Dredge, The Finals, as well as other games. I feel like sometimes get drowned out in the conversations about AAA games and the kind of stuff they do, whether it be microtransactions, preventing people from playing the single player offline, as well as all the other issues in the industry. Not to say the issues going on in the industry aren't important at all, but I honestly do feel like the aspect of games being destroyed by publishers and the ownership of games is honestly the most important one. The other issues will be solved, whether it be by these companies eating through their reserves of money, making shitty games, and indie game developers come out making stuff that's better, or even just other things. It's like, yes, we still have to talk about issues, microtransactions, battery-run stories, characters, and stuff like that, but it's kind of like we'll lose the games if there's no preservation. And I honestly think, or I kind of suspect, or I feel a bit paranoid, but this is that companies are trying to actually distract us from the older games. They're trying to make us not realize how much better some older games were. And to me, it's like, especially if like how conversations about those games get pushed down with some of the algorithms on platforms and stuff. And honestly, even if it's like, if you have to piggyback on other conversations, talk about older games, like we should still be trying to talk about them, whether it's comparisons, like some of the stuff that I've seen where it's people comparing graphics and stuff, older titles, newer titles, other things. It's a lot of these newer games, even though there is some good ones coming out, like The Alters, Expedition 33, and others. A lot of the older games are better, even Dishonored, Bioshock, like all of these, like they actually have thought and effort put into them. And that's honestly the thing to me at the core of one of the issues in the industry that's just sad, is that the lack of effort that's even put into games. That they're not viewing them as a form of art, just as a way of printing money, essentially. And then instead of realizing, oh, maybe we need to actually make an effort, they just want to get mad at the consumer. And act like it's the consumer's fault for just not getting excited for the product and then buying the next product. All in all, we should keep the conversation about older games alive so that we still know why we're having to fight against the industry with a lot of the stuff they're doing. Why there's actually issues with some modern games. It's the actual lack of like effort being put into these games and lack of willingness to treat them as the art form. So I think we sometimes forget when talking about all these issues what it is about that we're fighting against the crazy business practices of some of these corporations. In the last few minutes of the video, I want to talk about what I'm planning on doing with my channel going forward. I plan on making a few videos about different topics revolve around older games or indie games, as well as what I hope to see in the future of the games industry, as well as talking about the things they do get right. I also want to try and kind of present a bit more positive outlook, even though it's sometimes seems like there's not a whole lot positive going on in the industry. Also, one last minute thing, I am in the process of kind of figuring out a voice I'm comfortable with, so if it kind of fluctuates a bit or seems cringe, I apologize for that. Hopefully it doesn't sound too bad with the earlier in the video or even now. Yeah, but that's the video. Hope you all liked it. Until next time, I'll see you later.